Hello and welcome to another episode of Words with Myself.
Nobody enjoys suffering. Nobody enjoys pain. It's something that we spend an exorbitant amount of energy trying to avoid. You might immediately think of some examples that contradict that statement. You might think of people that put themselves through a lot of pain, people who constantly choose to suffer and put themselves in positions or environments where they are likely to suffer. But even often those people, they dislike pain, they dislike weakness, they dislike suffering to such an extent that they want to overcome it. And they believe that by hardening themselves, by making themselves so tough that they won't feel the pain, that they won't feel the suffering, that they can somehow transcend it. And this is especially true with physical pain, because physical pain you can transcend. And it is mainly because the physical pain doesn't hurt as much as the emotional pain of feeling weak. And that feeling of weakness feels so bad that they are capable of enduring almost any feat of physical pain. So it's not really the case that people are out there just really love suffering, they really love pain. It's just that they're so motivated by escaping pain and suffering, and they feel like the most effective method of doing that is to harden themselves to such an extent that their method of escaping the pain and suffering is not avoidance, it's direct confrontation. And this is why people who have experienced very traumatic things tend to go to the other extreme. If, for instance, that somebody experienced being beaten as a child, they might grow up to be a professional fighter because they never want to feel that feeling of incompetence and a lack of control and a lack of ability to defend themselves and the people that they love. So their primary core motivation was to eradicate that possibility from their life, to become a weapon of destruction so that no one would ever be able to do that to them again, so that they would never have to feel that suffering and pain in the same way ever again. And of course, this doesn't just apply to physical pain, it very much applies to emotional pain. People who have their heart broken tend to vow to never fall in love again, to never become attached to someone, because if they do, they know that they are inviting the possibility of experiencing that suffering again. So, in a lot of ways, we shape ourselves and allow our trauma to define us. We become hardened and calloused against life. We try to become impenetrable. We build up all of these defenses so that we minimize the pain, we minimize the suffering. But when we bounce between these two different extremes, we tend to create things that are harmful for us. We create defenses that prevent intimacy, that prevent love, that prevent relationships. We prevent success. We end up inhibiting our own lives because we are avoiding the pain and suffering. And what you will notice about anyone who sits at one of the extremes, if they experienced a weakness in their life and then they try to become physically strong as a way of coping with that experience of weakness, then they may become strong, they may become tough. But at some point, that strength, that toughness will start working against them. Because there is a time to be strong, there is a time to be tough, but there is also a time to be soft. There's also a time to be open. But what happens when you lean into one of these extremes is you actually grow the other side, the counterforce. And just like Newton's third law of motion, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. What we should really be striving for is to be balanced. And you can balance something in an extreme. If you have two extremes, let's say you're swinging from really high, really happy to really low, that is also a form of balance because you're bouncing between two extremes. But what happens then is that you get exhausted. you get dominated by these forces. They become overwhelming and they begin to control you. This will be a pretty niche example, but think of somebody slacklining or tightrope walking. And if you see them get out of balance, if somebody isn't very proficient or very skilled at, they tend to really wobble and they go from really far left to really far right and they get exhausted because they're constantly trying to counterbalance. It starts off with a small movement left and then they overcorrect and go too far to the right and then they go even further to the left and then even further to the right. And sooner or later there becomes this instability and people tend to fall down. But if you watch someone who is very skilled and very proficient at slacklining or tightrope walking, you will see that they are very balanced throughout the movement. They're not going too far in one direction. Their movements are very subtle. Their corrections are only slight. A little weight shift to the right, a little weight shift to the left, and they try and find that happy medium in the middle. And that is very much the same with life. When we go through these really high periods and these really low periods, we do achieve some kind of balance, but it's not stable. And that instability tends to cause problems, and we feel like we might be balanced for a period of time or we might achieve momentary peace, but sooner or later that instability is going to make us fall down. It's going to make us ill. It's going to make us collapse. I sort of see it like that phrase, "this too shall pass." When things are good, you must remember, this too shall pass. And when things are bad, you must remember, this too shall pass. If you attach to any one of them, you're going to be, when the times are good, you're going to think, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I wish things are going to stay like this forever. And when things are bad, you're going to be like, I want to rush through this. I just never want to feel like this again. I want to escape this. But what happens is you end up in this reactionary state where you are constantly reacting to things that are happening and you try to control life. You try to control what happens. You try to make sure that good things are happening and prevent bad things. And you become fixated on shaping your life in a particular way, of controlling your path, of making sure that things go exactly as you want them to go, rather than being present and as accepting things as they are. But as we have become more technologically advanced, we have more information, we have better healthcare, all of these kind of things, we become more and more convinced that everything should be good and we should avoid things that are bad. We should do the right things to make us avoid being ill. Whereas really, you don't control whether you're ill or not. There are things that have influence over it, but you could smoke your entire life and never get lung cancer, and you could never smoke a day in your life and you could get lung cancer. And you would think, well, that's really, really unfair. I've done what I was supposed to do. I've done all of the things that I was supposed to do right. Why am I being punished? Why do I have to go through this? And it's because it's a misunderstanding of life. It's a misunderstanding of how things actually are. We suffer with a false perception of reality, that we can guarantee an outcome if we do the right things. And we want things to be just. We want things to be fair. And we think that if we do right things and do good things, then good things should happen. But then we see that people do all the wrong things and good things happen to them. And yet we do things that we think are right, and yet things go wrong. Or we end up drawing the short straw. We're always ending up dealing with problems and suffering ourselves and taking that suffering on, rather than enjoying things, rather than living a present life and doing what we want to do. It might be that you're putting other people's needs in front of your own, or prioritizing other people, because you believe that that is the right thing to do. And I'm not telling you that it's not the right thing to do. What I am telling you is that if you are unhappy with how things are, if you're unhappy with your life, then how can it be the right thing to do? If you're constantly doing this and it's not worked, and you could have been doing this for 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years, and it hasn't been working, you have constantly been suffering. You have constantly been picking up the burden of everyone else. So how can that be right? And you have to accept the possibility that you could be wrong, that your idea of how life should be is incorrect. And what you need to accept is that you will never be stronger than life. You will never be smarter than life. You will never be able to outthink, outmaneuver, outplay, out brute force life. You cannot. And every attempt to do so is more than likely perpetuating suffering, pain, and misery rather than preventing it. You might believe that you are controlling things, that you are preventing more misery, that you are helping people, that you are limiting pain, and that that's your role to do. But really, you're not changing anything. You're just taking it on yourself. And, maybe sometimes that's necessary, but let's face it, it's not sometimes. The people that are doing this are always doing this. They're always looking after other people. They're always picking up the slack. They're always supporting people and refusing all help, refusing all support, refusing people to allow them to take care of them. And all you're doing is shouldering a burden that often you actually weren't asked to do. You felt like it was your duty to do. You felt like it was your responsibility to do, but you decided to do it. And it really doesn't matter how much money you have, how strong you are, how smart you are, how healthy you are or believe yourself to be. You cannot avoid or control suffering. You cannot avoid or control pain. And the more you accept this, the more it liberates you, because you realize that it's not optional. It's not up to you. You have no control over it. So why bother? Why even exert the effort trying to do so? And this isn't nihilistic. I'm not suggesting that you say, well, what's the point in anything? What's the point in doing anything? It's about living your life, about accepting that things can go wrong and things can go right. And really, there is like this 50-50 chance of things happening anyway. You can go and do something, and yes, it could go wrong. It could go right. Nothing could happen. You don't know. All you can do is do what you want to do what you feel called to do what you feel aligned with, and just try without attaching to an outcome, without wanting a specific result, without forcing life to play by your rules. All you can do is say, well, this is what I want to do. I'm going to try my best, and if it doesn't work, okay. I will revisit that when it happens. But it could work, and it couldn't work. There's no point in saying this is definitely going to work, or this is definitely isn't going to work, because you don't know. All you can do is say, I will do what I need to do. I will do what I want to do. And trust that no matter what the outcome is, no matter what happens, you will thrive, you will endure, you will exceed. And you are much more likely to succeed living in this way, rather than trying to control things, to be open to things, to not fear taking risks, because everything is a risk. Living is a risk. Not avoiding doing what you want to do because you're worried that you'll embarrass yourself, or that it will go wrong, or that it won't go your way, or that you'll be disappointed. To just do, and not have this expectation of outcome. Not have this expectation that it should go a certain way. You just have to do. You just have to be present. That is the only thing that is real. And the more you can ground yourself in this truth, the more you can accept that you have no control over the future. You cannot change the past. All you can do is live your life right here, right now. You are free. You are liberated. There is no worry. There is no anxiety. All you can do is trust that you will cope. You will survive. No matter what happens, you will endure. And you will thrive. You will have a great life. There's no reason to believe that things are all going to go wrong. And there's no reason to believe that all things are going to go right. The chances are it's going to be a mixed bag. There are going to be some things that go in your favor, and there's going to be some things that don't work out for you. And both of those are okay. The variety is what makes life worth living. The fact that there is good and is bad, that is life. That is what gives existence meaning. And if you remove one, you cannot have the other. So stop spending so much time, effort, and energy on trying to create an outcome. Just do what you want to do right now. Thank you for listening.